there was a need for a reinvestment in education and healthcare.
Tonight, reaction to the Quebec budget and what's in it for First Nations.
Return items that we can return to stores for refund.
And what to do with all that merchandise after the cancellation of the Arctic Winter Games. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Quebec's 2020 budget released yesterday promises new investments to create a, quote, wealthier, greener, and more educated society. But as Lindsay Richardson reports, it reveals little about the future of reconciliation in that province.
C'est avec beaucoup de fierté que je vous présente le deuxième budget de notre gouvernement.
The 2020 Quebec budget, one the province says reflects a confidence in the future, the same budget that risks testing the confidence of First Nations.
The details of the $110 billion Quebec budget are outlined in hundreds of pages of documents, but scant few discuss the Indigenous-specific investments that were expected for this year. Now, Quebec is offering a total of $200 million over 5 years for projects that have yet to be determined. This represents less than 1% of the overall budget. And when asked why Quebec opted to take a generalized approach to Indigenous affairs this year, the finance minister had this to say.
We want to decide with them where this money should go. So it was a decision that was based on respect rather than the Minister of Finance of Quebec saying this money is going to go there.
But by contrast, other areas received unprecedented investments. Hundreds of millions, even billions of dollars went to climate change, public transit, health and social services, even film and TV production. Critics say $200 million for Indigenous affairs won't stretch well.
Mais mes derniers entretiens avec les différents représentants me laissent croire que l'argent qui est dans le budget ne répondra pas au grand fossé qui nous sépare de la réponse des besoins des Premières Nations.
At the National Assembly, AFNQL Chief Ghislain Picard called it a first step.
It's going to take the time that it needs, but I think it doesn't prevent government to already identify investments in key areas. They know where the system is failing, Indigenous peoples.
The hundreds of concrete recommendations made in 2 Quebec-specific reports in the last year reveal work still to be done. The AFNQL says it will continue to look at economic development, on and off reserve housing, policing, and education. Also in the budget, confirmation of a $15 million mining infrastructure study to be conducted with the Cree Nation, as well as continued funding for school breakfast clubs in Nunavik. Everything else, Gerard says, requires discussions.
This is for them, and the decision on the allocation will be made with them.
Though not the coup de grace expected to start the decade. With several upcoming meetings planned, Picard says he's ready to come to the table again, hoping for the best.
If the door is open for more funding, then we can certainly start somewhere with the new investments announced today.
Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Quebec City.
On Tuesday, a long-awaited report on the Muskrat Falls Hydro Project in Labrador was made public, and some of the findings may lead to a police investigation. The Muskrat Falls Public Inquiry final report found that the province and the Crown Energy Corporation that built the controversial dam created mistrust by not allowing for meaningful consultations. The report says the mistrust led to protests that caused project delays and cost overruns. Provincial Supreme Court Justice Richard LeBlanc, who led the inquiry, found that top executives at Nalcor Energy, quote, frequently took unprincipled steps, end quote, in order to get the project approved. Newfoundland Premier Dwight Ball says that he will refer the report to police for potential criminal charges and that the Crown may pursue civil charges against Nalcor. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has called another First Ministers' Conference in Ottawa this week, where First Nations, Métis, and Inuit leaders will be part of the discussions. On the agenda, natural resources and the country's economy, including the oil and gas industry. National Chief Perry Bellegarde of the Assembly of First Nations will be there. He joins us now from our studio in Ottawa. Mr. Bellegarde, so I'm curious, has the Assembly of First Nations as a group collectively decided one way or the other if they do or don't support the Coastal GasLink pipeline?
No, our Assembly of First Nation is, we take our direction from Chiefs in Assembly, so there has not been any direct determination from that Assembly at all. But what we've been clear on is that we support the rights and title holders to make that decision. One of the most important rights we have is the right to self-determination or self-government. And the rights and title holders themselves will make that determination. And I've always said that one of the most important things we have to get our heads behind and support is the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And I think with Coastal GasLink, the Wet'suwet'en Nation themselves have to bring all their peoples together to find that common ground and dialogue, because you've got 20 duly elected chiefs along the pipeline route that support it. You've got matriarchs that support it. You've got a lot of people that support it. But again, you got two systems, the Indian Act system and then the hereditary system of governance, and those systems got to come together. And it's up to the Wet'suwet'en people, based on their own laws, traditions, and governance structures, to include all their peoples to make a decision and involve everybody. And that's their challenge going forward as a nation.
That's important. The premiers are meeting to talk about natural resources. When you go to that meeting tomorrow, what are you going to say? What's the message that you would like to send to the First Ministers and Canadians?
Well, one of the main messages is that you're going to have economic uncertainty and economic unrest when rights and title and jurisdiction aren't recognized by other governments. And that's what you see happening. So the message is simple. Embrace the rights and title holders and involve and include the rights and title holders from start to finish on any project. It's a simple message that before you start to build anything, build a respectful relationship with the rights and title holders. And you're going to create economic stability. You're going to find that sweet spot between the environment and the economy. Our people want to have jobs. They want to have access to wealth and job creation and be part of that. And look at equity ownership in some of these big projects. But it's sustainable economic development, not development at any cost. We always balance the land and water and respect for that. And so when you involve First Nations people, sooner than later, you always find the balance between the environment and the economy. And that's the message going forward to both federal government and the provincial governments and industry.
Well, thanks for that, and good luck with the meetings tomorrow.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
The federal government has allocated $1 billion to fight the COVID-19 outbreak. Today, the World Health Organization declared the viral outbreak a pandemic. Here's Willow Fiddler with what that means for First Nations in Ontario.
Joined by the federal health minister Wednesday morning, Trudeau said the money will go to the provinces and territories preparing for the virus that has so far killed one person in British Columbia and infected at least 92 others across the country.
I want all premiers and all Canadians to know our government is here for you. We will make sure you have everything you need.
Some of the funds will go to research, vaccine development, and clinical testing of the coronavirus that originated in China. Part of $100 million is earmarked for ongoing support for preparedness in First Nations and Inuit communities. Indigenous Services Canada is coordinating regional efforts with First Nations. Minister Mark Miller told media Wednesday, obviously, Indigenous communities across Canada face specificities that non-Indigenous people don't when it comes to exposure to coronavirus. We have our experience from H1N1, and we know that overcrowding poses a real threat to people's health for a number of reasons. Part of that experience from H1N1 includes the body bags Health Canada reportedly sent to several fly-in First Nations in Northern Ontario and Manitoba in 2009. Officials said today there are now 41 confirmed COVID-19 cases in Ontario, including a male in his 50s in Sudbury who reportedly attended the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada conference in Toronto last week. Chiefs from Northern Ontario were also there. The Thunder Bay Health Unit is warning anyone who attended to self-monitor for symptoms of fever, coughing, and difficulty breathing until March 18. Tanya Cameron was the band manager for Nisatchewan Anishinaabe Nation near Kenora, Ontario back in 2009 when the H1N1 outbreak hit the north. Today, she's updating her community's pandemic plan. She spoke to APTN on Monday from Shoal Lake 40.
It's looking at how to keep the community's infrastructure going if, say, your water treatment plant operator gets sick. What's the backup plan? Because in most communities, you got one. You're lucky if you have two. So how will we ensure continued access to water, right? And what happens if that day where it comes where we don't have access to water? What's our backup plan? So it's all these worst-case scenario planning, just to be ready.
Cameron says it's important to keep communities properly informed without causing panic. Her community's website has a subscribe button for band members.
Everyone received a text over the weekend about the coronavirus. You know, what it is, what it does to the body, what the symptoms are, and how to prevent the spread of any kind of flu, right, in our community. So it's that helpful information, especially in this digital age.
Canada's Public Health Agency says the risk to the general population remains low but could change rapidly. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
Concerns about COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus, have prompted cancellations of major events like the Arctic Winter Games, and now some Northern First Nations have pulled their teams from a hugely popular hockey tournament set to happen in the Greater Toronto area next week. Approximately 3,000 players and an estimated 10,000 people attended Little Native Hockey League games and events back in 2019. While children and families look forward to the tournament every year, 9 teams from Attawapiskat, Saskatchewan, and Fort Albany have withdrawn from the event this year over concerns about COVID-19. Mushkegowuk Council Grand Chief Jonathan Solomon said that decisions about travel are made by communities.
It was up to each community what they want to do, and I respect them for that. And I also respect the other teams or communities that decided we'll take a risk and with precautions. And I hope that at the end of the day that they'll come out of the tournament with no issues around COVID-19.
The chiefs of Anishinaabe Nation and Treaty 3 Grand Council want that tournament to be postponed. And in other news that has been dominating headlines, Harvey Weinstein has been sentenced to 23 years behind bars in a New York court today. The 67-year-old film producer was found guilty last month of raping an aspiring actress and sexually assaulting a former production assistant. The maximum sentence for his crimes was 29 years in prison. His legal team argued for 5, citing health concerns. Part 3 of our 3-part perspective series on Métis settlements in Alberta airs tonight. Here's a peek at what's coming up after the break, and stay tuned for tomorrow's weather forecast in the central and eastern parts of the country.
I'm Chris Stewart. Coming up, the final part of my stories on the Métis settlements in Alberta. We follow the day in the life of John Superno from the East Prairie Métis settlements. That's coming up on APTN National News.
Off on the east coast, we've got 3 in sunshine for Halifax, -2 in snow for Charlottetown. Happy Valley Goose Bay, -7 with a mix of sun and cloud. Kuujjuaq, mostly sunny and -18. Montreal, sunshine and 4 degrees, 0 for Saguenay, Quebec City, and sunny skies. Peterborough and Toronto are 8 degrees and sunny. North Bay, 4 with a mix of sun and cloud. Thunder Bay and Wawa and Kapuskasing are 2 with some snow. The Pas, -7 and 12. -12 in Pucktawagan, snow in these communities. Winnipeg, -1 in snow. Same with Brandon, 6 in cloud in Dauphin. Estevan is 0 with a mix of sun and clouds, -5 in mix of sun and cloud in New Yorkton. -10 with a mix of sun and cloud for Buffalo Narrows, -18 mostly sunny for Stony Rapids, -17 and sunshine for Uranium City. Welcome back. Our final story focusing on the Métis settlements in Alberta, the only province that has land exclusively for Métis people. We're going to look at a day in the life of those living at one of the 8 settlements. APTN's Chris Stewart spent a day with John Superno, an elder at the East Prairie Métis settlement.
My name is John Superno. Welcome to East Prairie Métis settlement.
John Superno has called the East Prairie Métis settlement home for 70 years.
Well, actually, I wasn't born here, but I was raised here. I was born in Greward, Alberta in 1945, May 12th. And my mother moved here, I believe, in 49, around that time. And I've been here ever since.
This morning, he pays a visit to his family.
go to stop at my mother's. She's the oldest member of the East Prairie community.
John's mother is 95 years old. John spends time with her and his brothers.
Tired. Tired? Yeah. You're tired, but you're still knitting.
He then heads to his home. The road to his place needs to be resurfaced.
I don't know if it was a time frame, or funding problems, whatever the case may be, but it wasn't done, but they're still promising that they will finish it one day, and I'm hopeful of that. That's a big house for an old bachelor. I had traded the place years back.
John is retired, but he still likes to play his guitar and sing at home. He used to play in a band.
If I had listened, no, I wouldn't be here today, living and dying with the choices I've made.
Stepping outside, he sees a small friend, a bird waiting for a meal.
I feed him. Most times he'll eat off my hand, but he's hungry now.
John made his own moose call. He says he still catches the odd moose.
First of all, I call a bull. Scared the bird.
Deeply religious, John Superno reads from the Bible daily. His house is filled with photos from the past.
Looking at that picture where I used to wear a cowboy hat back in the old days, you can tell the face had changed some in the years that has gone by. And this one also, it was a baseball jacket. Used to play ball back in the day, basketball.
He says there are many similarities between Métis settlements and reservations, like living off the land.
I don't know where the difference would be, because I have relatives in some reservations, like Sucker Creek. I believe I'm related to a lot of people there, and they are my friends. And as far as their way of life, there ain't much change, because I remember back in the day, earlier years, when they used to come up, hunt over here in the day, and used to stop at my grandparents because they were friends and stuff like that. And they, whatever they bag a moose or not, the visit was worthwhile. So, yeah, they still hunt these days, as do we.
The community of East Prairie Métis settlements and the 7 other settlements each have many stories to tell. John Superno's is just one of many. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, East Prairie Métis Settlement, Alberta.
That was a lovely perspective series by Chris Stewart. It's time for us to take another break. When we come back, what happens with all the merchandise from the Arctic Winter Games that have been cancelled amid coronavirus fears? And here's the rest of tomorrow's weather for the west and the north. To northern Alberta, we've got 0 in snow for Fort McMurray, -10 in sunshine for Peace River, -2 and sunny in Edmonton, 1 and cloud in Calgary. Vancouver, sunshine and 7 degrees, same with Penticton, 3 and sunny in Quesnel. Dease Lake, -12 and sunny skies, 1 and sunshine for Smithers. Whitehorse, -17 and sunny, -15 and sunshine for Old Crow. -19 and sunshine for Norman Wells. Waughty, -21 and snow. Colville Lake, -25 and sunshine. Sax Harbor, mostly mixed and sunny cloud, -29. Cambridge Bay, -33 and clear skies, -21 for Baker Lake and snow. Igloolik, -32 and clear skies. Pangertung, -25 and clear. Cape Dorset, snow and -18 degrees. Welcome back. It's been 5 days since the announcement was made to cancel the 2020 Arctic Winter Games in Whitehorse. Now organizers have to start the decommission process way earlier than hoped. Chris McIntyre has more.
A week ago, the Arctic Winter Games office was buzzing with excitement. Now, disappointment is in the air as employees pack up supplies in the wake of the cancellation. Mia has been helping since last year. A coworker called to talk about the cancellation.
I thought it was a joke. I laughed and said he was joking.
The coworker wasn't joking. Now, instead of preparing for the games, organizers are getting ready to decommission them.
Firstly is to return items that we can return to stores for refund. Obviously there'll be restocking, we understand that. To advise our major sponsors and major funders of what this means and what they believe it means.
Athletes get to keep their team uniforms and volunteers will receive their jackets. Clothes and items that cannot be returned will be sold during the last week of March. Plans for all the Arctic Winter Game pins are still being sorted out. A special reconciliation pin was planned to be unveiled during the games.
Everybody on Sunday was tasked to go back to their division and figure out how best to decommission things and ideas. So then bring all those forward today, and then we decide as a group what we do with things like the reconciliation pin.
Everyone is still coming to terms with the decision, but are optimistic that the initiative started will go on to the next Arctic Winter Games in Alberta.
It is pretty disappointing and pretty hard. Definitely my heart goes out to all the athletes who are going to come and all the, I guess, hopes that everyone had. I think that's been hard, and we had some great initiatives coming into these games.
Chris McIntyre, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
On today's In Focus, we discussed a successful partnership between the Turtle Lodge Healing Center at the Segi First Nation and the University of Manitoba. This partnership puts traditional healing at the center of modern medical treatment. Here's some highlights.
And we have evolved, with an understanding and a knowledge, that we understand can support the health and wellness of our people. And really what that means in a really quick understanding is a strong connection to the spirit. And I understand that it's difficult for people to understand, the term spirit, because it's not within the conversation, of the issues that we're dealing with every day.
The key message here is Indigenous-led partnerships. We're not talking about integration into a Western system. I think Indigenous-led health partnerships are the only way to really bring out the fullness of the Indigenous knowledge that is there to inform, that can inform our healthcare systems around the world. If we just talk about integrating into the Western system and sprinkling a little bit of culture here and there, the results would be, they may be a little bit effective, but we wouldn't see the fullness of how strong Indigenous medicine really is.
You can watch that full episode of In Focus on our APTN News Facebook page, or you can tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It re-airs right here on your TV set. And you can get the APTN News app on your smartphone. If you've missed anything, we're out of time for the night. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night, and I will see you back here tomorrow.